goes faster and faster.
Welcome back to With Antone MotoGP. This weekend we've got MotoGP racing back at the Silverstone circuit for the Grand Prix of Great Britain. But let me ask you a question. Is crashing actually a skill? It sounds completely ridiculous, yet I believe one of the hidden skills in MotoGP is knowing when a crash is worth risking. Today, let's explain why, and we'll see how that could shape this weekend at Silverstone, including we'll look at my predictions for round 12. Every rider is searching for the fastest lap. Sometimes a crash isn't a sign you've failed. Sometimes it's proof that you've found the limit. The real skill isn't just avoiding crashes, it's knowing when the reward is worth risking a crash. Get that judgment right and you're fighting for the championship. Get it wrong, you'll spend the season chasing points or even worse, sitting in the medical centre. Look at the championship. Jorge Martin is leading the standings. He also leads the crash stats with 16 falls already this season. So clearly more crashes don't automatically mean a bad year. Then look at Ogura. Only 5 falls all season. No crashes during a Grand Prix and no crashes during a sprint race. 2 completely different approaches, both fighting near the front. So what are they doing differently? And if you're enjoying this type of analysis on MotoGP, I really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. You know, it makes a huge difference to an independent channel like mine, and it helps me to produce analysis that looks beyond the headlines and explains why things happen and not just what happens. Okay, the crash isn't the mistake. The mistake isn't crashing. The mistake is crashing at the wrong time. Every MotoGP weekend is about managing risk, and the risk scales throughout the MotoGP weekend. FP1, you're out setting up on the circuit, you're checking your conditions, and you're not really risking much at all. Friday practice, well, it's all about the top 10. Now the pressure increases, you have to push, but not push so hard that you destroy your weekend. FP2, the pressure comes off, you can work on your setup, do a longer run, understand your tyres, and don't risk anything. But Q1, if you're in Q1, everything changes. You miss those top 2 and your whole weekend becomes harder. Now the reward is worth taking a bigger risk. And of course, in Q2, forget about the championship, forget about race pace. It's one fast lap, one opportunity to put your bike on pole. You can switch that analytical part of your brain off and commit. This is where champions accept the highest risk of crashing. Then we're on to the sprint race, like half the GP distance. There's fewer points, but it's a higher acceptable level of risk in that race. Aggressive overtakes make more sense to the riders. Now the Grand Prix on Sunday, it's completely different. The Grand Prix is sacred, I should say. It's double the points, and that's where you build your championship. Sometimes 4th place is worth more than risking a crash for 3rd. So knowing when to attack is often the hardest decision that a rider gets to make over the Grand Prix weekend and the season. What about this finding the limit? Now, this is where Marc Márquez has always fascinated me. People always remember his crashes, but you look closely at when a lot of those crashes happen. They happen in practice, they happen in qualifying while he's still searching for the limit. And when he was a younger rider, he used to use those sessions to discover exactly where the edge is before the Grand Prix arrives on Sunday. Now, Jorge Martin, like I've discussed, has crashed 16 times this season, yet he still leads the championship. Now that tells us something really important. He's prepared to accept crashes if they help him stay at the front. He likes to keep pushing, but the balance is making sure those crashes don't happen on the Sunday. And he's managed this pretty well. 3 crashes in the sprint races and only 1 DNF in the Grand Prix. And then there's Ogura. only 5 crashes this season. And remarkably, none of them have happened during a sprint race or a Grand Prix. Now that's just not speed, that is extreme discipline. That's understanding when the reward simply isn't worth the risk. And of course, there's another side to this equation. And every rider knows one thing. The best crash, well, the best crash is simple. It's the one that does not injure you. Because once you're injured, then everything, as we have seen this season, changes. Okay, Silverstone, Great Britain Grand Prix this weekend, and it's such an interesting place to restart the championship after the break. Grip, well, it's usually quite low. The weather, well, it's constantly changing. The wind, I think, is the battle this weekend because that will keep changing the balance of each rider's bike. The grip will change throughout the day. There's a chalk of a little bit of light rain. So everything we've talked about in terms of risk will become even more important this weekend. Remember last year, Fabio Quartararo almost won there last year, had that O-ring failure in his ride height. And of course, the red flag last year completely changed the race. Turn 4 and turn 16, look out for those. They're the ones that will produce many of the crashes. And of course, Abbey is spectacular, but it's not somewhere where you really want to make a mistake. So riders to watch this weekend, I think the conditions and the grip favour Aprilia. Ogura and Jorge Martin, I think therefore are going to be good. Marco Bezzecchi, if he's cleared by the medical team, he doesn't necessarily need a podium after returning from that injury. What he needs is a solid finish. But what we're seeing is yet again another rider who's maybe not fully recovered racing again. And of course, Fabio Gianantonio could surprise if the grip is inconsistent, and Alex Marquez is another rider who always seems to find speed when conditions become difficult. My prediction, I think Ogura is going to win the Grand Prix from Marc Márquez and Jorge Martin, a little bit like Bruno in reverse, if you like. So maybe we've been looking at crashing the wrong way. Perhaps the champions aren't the riders who crash the least. Perhaps they're the riders who understand exactly when the reward is worth a crash, and of course, when it isn't. Because over the 22-round championship, judgment is often worth more than just being brave. And this weekend at Silverstone with low grip, changing weather, one small mistake can carry a huge consequence. The judgment by the riders could make all the difference this weekend. But what do you think? What do you think about riders and how they manage this risk? And of course, what about when they do actually crash? Let me know in the comments below and we can have a discussion. And as always, if you've enjoyed the episode, give us a thumbs up. If you're brand new, well, why not drop a subscription and why not share the video around? And remember, with Antone MotoGP, it's always data, not noise. Okay, enjoy the racing this weekend at the Silverstone circuit, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon. Okay, bye for now.